Hello from here at the Riverside Stadium, where Hull City have suffered a fifth straight defeat, losing 3-1 against in-form Middlesbrough. Didn't start great for City, 2-0 down at half-time. They did recover in the second half, scored to make it 2-1 through Mason Burstow, but soon after that, Tommy Conway scored his second goal of the game to take it to 3-1 and basically kill off the game. It could have been so much different in the first half. João Pedro threw on goal, pulled back by the last man. No decision from the referee. Well, there was a decision from the referee, not a very good one. Played on, no red card for the Middlesbrough defender. That was at 0-0, and you felt even then that would be a pivotal decision. He should have walked, and then Borough at 0-0 early on would have been down to 10 men. May well have been a very different game. There was suggestion that the second goal from Tommy Conway was actually offside, and then there was a penalty shout for City in the second half. But look, we spoke to Andy Dawson in the build-up to the game on Thursday, and he referenced the fact that City haven't had much luck all season, and I'd agree with him with that in that respect. As he said, you need to make your own luck at times, and that's also true, but they didn't get a huge amount of it today. Stephen Martin, the referee, should have... It was clear as day that Pedro was pulled back, because Pedro, the defender, Pedro was sort of here, and he pulled him back, and he carried on pulling him back, and then he fell to the ground just outside the penalty area. So it wasn't a penalty, but it was smack bang in front of goal. Clearly the last man, he had to go, but the referee bottled the decision, and City didn't get that. But look, let's call a spade a spade. Defensively, again, they weren't great. Middlesbrough had 21 attempts in the game. The Drame, I felt for Cody Drame. He was at left back again, up against Ben Doak. You know, the Welsh, the international Welsh Scottish international. I'll get it right one day. He was tremendous down this right hand side against Drame. Turned him inside out time after time after time after time, and eventually Cody went off in the second half. The first goal came from a more poor play at the back. The ball went into Finuzaz, who was back in the team after missing their defeat to Blackburn on Wednesday with injury. They just didn't get close enough to him, and they allowed him to get onto his left foot, corner of the penalty box, and he stuck it in the top corner. Midway through the first half, it was 2-0 just before half time, when Doak got down. I'm struggling with him, aren't I? City tried to sign him in the summer. He chose Middlesbrough. Real shame, because he was brilliant. Got down deep to the byline on the right hand side, pulled over the cross, and Tommy Conway, another City target, from the left side of the goal, headed back across over Pandor and into the net, and that was 2-0 before half time, and you felt that was game over. But credit to City, they rallied in the second half. They rode their luck at times. Pandor made a couple of absolutely outstanding saves, one to deny Doak from a close range header as well. And then he made some changes in the second half, one of which was Mason Burstow coming on. Just seconds after coming on, Kamara on the left-hand side lifted the cross to the back post. Burstow came in with a really good header, and you kind of felt that was 2-1, and suddenly the crowd got edgy. Middlesbrough's players got edgy. City got momentum. They were pushing forward. Didn't really create. The goalkeeper Bryn didn't have a huge amount of saves to make, in fairness. But the feeling in the stadium was that City were on top, that had got a bit of momentum. But then Middlesbrough were always creating. They were always looking a threat. And Conway with a really good finish to make it 3-1 9 minutes from time, and that was that 3-1. They had 37 touches in the City penalty area, and they created 21 attempts. That's a lot of attempts at City's goal, and against a team that prior to Wednesday night had scored 15 goals in 3 games. So and with the likes of Tommy Conway, with Finuzaz, they've got good players, and obviously Latte Lath was only on the bench, so it was always going to be a tall order for a team that had kept one clean sheet all season to come here and keep them out, and so it proved. But look, whoever the new manager is, and we'll come to that in a minute, that is going to be there's 2 big jobs on here. One is, and it's not rocket science, it's obvious to whoever is watching Hull City play. One job is keeping the ball out the net at one end. The other job is putting the ball in the net at the other end, and that is something they're struggling with. João Pedro looks well off it. I know he scored a couple of goals a few weeks ago, but it doesn't provide anything going forward. He's very easy to defend against. He doesn't go in behind. You can't go long to him. He doesn't really touch the ball very often. So I would say that Chris Beddy coming on, and certainly Burstow coming on, made a big difference. Burstow with his goal. I would be amazed if he's not in the team up front on next Saturday against Blackburn Rovers. I've done an interview with him actually on that subject. So keep an eye out for him. Really interesting what he said about the former manager. Why he wasn't being played, what he was being told. So that's one to keep an eye on. So look, as results are at the minute, I know QPR drew earlier on. Portsmouth is still playing as we record this. But City are a joint bottom of the table. They're still 22nd in the league, but they're now level on 15 points with Pompey and QPR. Obviously Pompey is still playing, so that might yet change. So we'll have to wait and see. But there were positives to take from today's performance. There were none against Sheffield Wednesday midweek. There were positives today. I thought they played differently. They went with a 4-2-3-1. They looked better in some respects, but they've still come away from home and allowed 21 shots on their goal, and that's not great, is it? They still need to be more solid. They've got to find a way, and if it's going to be Andy Dawson for the next game, they've got to find a way in this next week of becoming more solid. And I've said this before. They've gone back 2 years. We can debate the merits of Liam sacking all we want, whether it is right, whether it is wrong, but ultimately they have gone back 2 years. What they need now is what they had 2 years ago: a manager to come in, to get them organised, to make them difficult to beat, to get confidence back in the players, to make them resilient, and find a way to get in results, draws, wins, whatever it is, to get them out of the hole. And that's where they were 2 years ago when Liam came in. They were too easy to score against. They couldn't score enough goals, and they were at the bottom end of the table. And that's where they are now. So it's kind of just like, you're just a bit like dispirited by the whole thing, because this was also avoidable, and this is going to take some time to recover from. This isn't going to be an overnight fix that suddenly City start winning games and go win 4 or 5 games in a row and suddenly they're in mid-table and out of trouble. This is going to take some time to undo what's been done over the last 4 or 5 months, and it is going to take time. So hopefully, you can get a result against Blackburn next week. But they're in great form. They've won here at Borough on Wednesday night. They've just beaten Leeds United at Ewood Park. So that's they're a difficult side to break down under John Eustace, who would make a very, very good manager at Hull City, by the way. But he's got a good job at Blackburn just at the minute. So look, they've got something to work with. Whoever comes in has got something to work with. But I just can't get away from the fact that the whole football club has taken a massive step back. They've gone back 2 years. They've undone 2 years worth of work, and it is now it's not quite a survival act, because there's a long way to go yet. There's still 28 games, but it does feel like we are back in 2022, and it is a case of find a way to get points on the board quickly before it does become a real problem. So look, anyway, that's the game done here. Let's now talk about the management situation. Andy Dawson, as it stands, will be in charge on Monday. He will lead the game into Blackburn next week. Obviously, behind the scenes, there's a lot of work going on with Acun Ilicali, the Tigers owner, talking to people around him, talking to potential candidates. We know that Mark Robbins is one of those. Slavica Jokanovic is another. There's other names out there. Stephen Schumacher, Alex Neil. I wouldn't be surprised if they looked at John Eustace, the job he's doing. There's a lot of good managers out there at the minute, and you go through phases. Sometimes you look at the managerial merry-go-round and you think, there's nobody out there that, if we were to change manager, whoever your club is, the opportunities aren't great. But I do think there's 4 or 5 managers out there, but it will come down to who's available. So Jokanovic is available, hasn't been in work for quite a long time. His last achievement in England was back in 2018 when he got Fulham promoted. Obviously had a difficult spell at Sheffield United. He's been out in Moscow but he's not managed for a little while. Alex Neil, we know he's a very, very good, able, competent Championship manager. We know the job that Steven Schumacher did at Plymouth, playing great football, getting them out of League One for the first time, I think, in 13 years. Didn't work at Stoke, but we know from the recent history since Stoke were relegated from the Premier League, that's been a difficult job for whoever's gone there. Pretty much Stoke's been a difficult job since Tony Pulis. So you can't really criticise too much about Steven Schumacher. So he would be a solid appointment. They've got to get it right. They've got to get it right. It can't, obviously the last appointment under Acun when he appointed Liam, that took 8 games. He obviously came very close to appointing Pedro Martins. That didn't happen. There were 1 or 2 other managers spoken to. He ultimately went for Liam. That was Dawes was in charge for 8 games. I'm not sure you can leave it 8 games now. That would, 8 games is a long time. Takes us well into the new year and January. So I don't think it'll take that long. I would expect news Monday, Tuesday. I would expect developments Monday, Tuesday, going into Blackburn next week. But as much as it needs to happen quickly, it can't be rushed in the sense you can't get the wrong guy. And I suppose the two don't really go together. You on one hand you want Acun to take his time and make the right appointment, because it's fundamentally important, and it could go a long way to define his ownership if he gets this one wrong, particularly given what's happened with Tim Volter. So he does need to make it fairly quickly, but equally, he's got to get the right guy in charge. And I've said before that this is, yes, there's players out, the likes of Miller and Bellumi, but this is still a capable group of players. But it's one that needs organisation, needs guidance. It needs to stop conceding such poor goals, and it needs to start finding a way to get the ball in the net at the other end, because I've said this for weeks, this team has for a long time now had the hallmarks of a team that are going to struggle, that could be in a relegation battle, because they can't stop the ball going in the net at one end, and they can't score at the other. And again, you don't have to be some scientific muffin at the University of Football to work out that you aren't going to win many games if that's happening, and they've got to find a way to stop doing those, to stop conceding, and find a way to start scoring. And hopefully, today, as disappointing as it is that you've lost another game, there have been elements, particularly in that second half when they around the goal, and when Burstow scored. I thought that was a really good goal. Kamara looked brighter. Hopefully he'll get confidence from that, and Mason will get confidence from his goal. I thought Abdouche looked really bright in parts as well. I thought Palmer showed elements of what he can do in that number 10 role. But also, look, the players we can talk all day long about managers and how difficult it's been for players, but the players have also got to step up. Managers will live and die by their players, of course they will, but it's the players that are out there. And I often think in football, players get a free ride when a manager doesn't do great. And look, Tim's been a disaster for everybody. It's been a disastrous appointment. Nothing good has come out of Tim Volter's appointment, really, and it's been an expensive and costly mistake. But ultimately, the players now are the ones that have got to step up, and they're the ones that have got to get out and close a shot down. They're the ones that have got to track runners at the back post. They're the ones that have got to stop crosses coming into the penalty area. Drame had an absolute shocker against Doak today. He's got to get out and he's got to stop. He's got to stop his runs. We've got to stop the ball coming through to him. So look, we can blame managers all day long, and look, the former manager's got to take a huge amount of blame for the situation that we're in. But the players are out there. The players have got a job to do. They're highly paid, well looked after individuals. The club do absolutely everything for them. Go out there and perform. Go out there and put tackles in. Go out there and block crosses, block shots. Win your tackles. Win that second ball. Go out and score a goal. Take a chance. The players, ultimately, the manager can come in and organise them and give them instructions and get them doing things, differently to the former manager. But they're the ones that have got to go out there and perform. And it is only that group of players that could stop this team being relegated. Because if they don't, if it's now five straight defeats, 10 games without a win, they've scored 17 goals in 18 games. that's nowhere near good enough, is it? And they have to stand up and be counted now. A new manager will come in, will put his ideas across, and I'm sure things will start to turn around. We have to cling to that, but the players have got to step up as well. So we'll have to wait and see. Look, that's probably it from here at the Riverside Stadium. Long journey home now, but after another defeat. So as I say, five defeats in a row for the first time in 2 years. They've now got a clear week, and irrespective of what happens with the manager, whether we get an appointment this week or we don't, City have got the players and the coaching staff that are still there have got to get them organised, put some confidence in them, and go out and get a result against Blackburn, because that's a really difficult game next Saturday at the MKM Stadium. We'll have the podcast for you on Monday. Mark, I said that. I don't know if you've been watching, but I mentioned that at the top. Given QPR's point and Portsmouth as it stands, the 3 teams on 15 points, joint bottom. So it's there, isn't it? You can't get away from it. You can't be naive. Nobody can. You can't bury. There can be nobody within the football club or outside that can bury your head in the sand. They've played 18 games and they're third bottom. They deserve to be there. The league table at this stage of the season doesn't lie, and if there's anybody that thinks that they're suddenly going to turn up and roll up, walk out of this mess and start climbing the table, then you're badly, you're naive. You're in dreamland, because we all know what this league is like. We all know how tough it is, and if you're not quite at it, you will get beat, and they keep getting beat. If the stats, every single stat is telling. Every single stat makes it clear that Hull City are third bottom of the table, for goals conceded, for goals scored, for wins, for defeats. It's there in black and white. And if there's anybody that's thinking that they're in a false position, you've got to get a grip. You've got to get a grip about it, because they are where they deserve to be. They haven't been good enough as a collective. And the manager was to blame, of course he was, but they're a collective. They always say we win, lose and draw as a team. So they've now got to win, lose and draw and get out of this mess as a collective. Being in the bottom 3 is not a nice place to be at any point. And very quickly, if you don't start getting results, you'll be there at Christmas. And if you're there at Christmas, there's a fair chance you're going to be there at New Year. And if you're there at New Year, it's very difficult to get out of. And also, it has a knock-on effect in the transfer window, because players don't want to come to teams that are struggling. Very, very hard to get players in to teams that are in the bottom 3, particularly good players and players that want to come to the club for the right reasons, players that are going to come and make a difference. They couldn't sign a striker in January. We saw it. In the summer, we saw it. They missed out on Tom Cannon. Went to Stoke. We've seen it here with Tommy Conway. Couldn't get him. There's been other players they've missed out on. They can't score goals, and that is the problem. So it's going to be really hard for them to go out in January and bring in a striker that's suddenly going to score 10, 15 goals. So that the players that are here, João Pedro, Bedia and Burso, have got to step up, and other players as well. The rest of the team have got to step up and start scoring goals. Hopefully, as I say, for Mason, I like him. Mason's got something different, and he can stretch teams. Pedro doesn't do that. He's easy to play against. So, hopefully, but Burso can get a run in the side at playing as a number 9 and can add to his goal. Hopefully, that will give him the confidence to go on and start scoring some goals. So, just a quick mention for the fans, who obviously there's been a lot of talk about the fans and the relationship with the former manager, etc., etc. But there was 1,200 or so of them here today. Made an awful lot of noise, backed their team brilliantly. Even at 2-0 down, they were brilliant. They roared them on at 2-1. It was just unfortunate that the team couldn't go and get that second goal, but they were brilliant. The fans, they obviously, Dawes and the staff and the players all went over at full time to applaud them, and the fans returned that with big cheers and roars. I just hope for the fans, and I've said it before, full credit to them, I just hope that they get a win at home at some point, because the home form, 3 wins in 21 in 2024 is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace, and as a collective they need to go out in, I think 3 of the next 4 games at home or something like that, 2 of the next 3 at home or whatever. So they've got to go out and get a home win and start moving up the table and make make that place a fortress, because if they're going to get out of this mess, that the MKM Stadium's got to be where it starts, and that starts on Saturday. Whoever's in charge, it's kind of irrelevant whoever's in charge, because the players have got to go out and get that result. So look, that's it from here as night falls at the Riverside Stadium. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you've been up here today, great support. Have a safe journey back, and as always, keep in touch. Any developments over the weekend, we'll try and bring you those. We'll have the podcast with myself, Fletch, Burnsy and Prutz on Monday. We'll be with, as it stands, we'll be with Dawes and a player building up to Blackburn on Saturday. We'll be at the training ground on Thursday. We've also got the hospital visit coming up on Thursday afternoon, which I'm really looking forward to going to. Look, always enjoy going there. It's always a special occasion, and a wonderful occasion every single year. So we'll be doing that Thursday afternoon, and that's just after we've been to the training ground. So, as I say, keep in touch. Any developments on the manager situation we'll have for you over the weekend. Up the